again, people of the internet, greetings and salutations. I am Papa Hefe, and welcome to my channel. So I've had a pretty long day on my motorcycle today. I left the house about 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock this morning to run an errand, and wound up spending about 12 hours taking care of other things. As kind of ironic as it is, once I was done with that 12 hours of taking care of things, the first thing that I really wanted to do was get on my bike and go for a ride. But I'm actually able to enjoy it right now. When I left the house this morning, it was like 37, 38 degrees, and I was just not prepared for that. I actually have a pair of heated gloves, but I hadn't used them since last year, so they didn't have any charge to them. So they're plugged in at the house right now. And it's a good thing I've got those, because I've got a long ride ahead of me on Sunday. But that's a subject for a different vlog. Today, I want to tackle another challenge from the hashtag Challenge Accepted Motovloggers group on Facebook. A while back, Guvna947, who makes fantastic content, and I'll link his channel down below, he posted a challenge that he called the 3 R's challenge, and that's 3 reasons that you bought your motorcycle. Now, there is absolutely no way that I could reduce the reasons that I bought this bike to just 3. Even when I kind of touched on it in my Who is Papa Hefe video a while back, I couldn't reduce it to 3 reasons. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit, and I'm going to reduce it to 3 categories of reasons. I like circumventing the rules sometimes. At any rate, Guvna947, challenge accepted. So category 1 is the practical considerations. And yes, believe it or not, there were practical reasons that I bought a brand new Harley Davidson motorcycle. At the absolute top of the list was the fact that there was a warranty. I kind of have a bad history with vehicles, and my wife will totally tell you as much. I've had cars catch on fire, I've had radiators explode, I've cracked engine blocks, I've had things just stop working for no discernible reason. And so having a piece of paper that says, yes, if your bike just suddenly stops working, we'll totally take care of that for you, that's a selling point. Another practical consideration was the financing. Now, I was looking at spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 on my next bike anyway, but at that point, why not bump it up just a little bit and then make payments on it? At least then you can break it up into bite-sized chunks. And that's just way easier to swallow than saving up $10,000 in cash. Even if you can technically afford it, just plunking down a stack of paper like that hurts. I'm kind of a tight-fisted guy when it comes to things like that. And so even while I'm technically spending more than I would have been otherwise, it feels more acceptable. Another practical consideration for me was what happens when that warranty runs out. The Suzuki that I had before this was a fantastic bike, but when it started having problems, I couldn't find anybody to work on the damn thing. Now, I know the Milwaukee 8 is a brand new platform, so it's going to be a challenge for a few years to find an independent mechanic who's qualified to work on them. But the fact of the matter is, when you live somewhere like Alabama, to use one of those weird old southern terms, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a shop that'll work on a Harley. When I finally did find somebody who was willing to work on my Volusia, the closest shop was 120 miles away. If your bike's not running, how the hell are you going to get it to a shop 120 miles away? You can't. And while up until not incredibly long ago, my insurance provider, who I'm not using anymore, had roadside assistance, it applied to our car, but they wouldn't do anything for the motorcycle. They didn't know how to deal with it. But when I bought this thing, it came with a year membership in the Harley Owners Group. And yeah, there are all the jokes about hog and hog members, but the fact of the matter is, there's some real great tangible benefits that come along with membership. Even if you don't necessarily participate in the group, you don't go to their meetings, you don't go to their events, you don't go on their rides, they offer some really great perks. And one of those perks is, yeah, if your bike breaks down, we'll come and tow it for you. Category 2 is the visceral reaction that I had to this bike. Now, as I stated previously, when I was looking to buy a new bike, I wasn't looking to buy a new bike. What I was actually looking for was a used Dyna. And so I went to the dealership to look at used Dyna Street Bobs, and they had a couple that were pretty nice, I guess. They had a very nice blue one. The paint was beautiful. It had obviously been loved by the previous owner, but it just had things that I didn't really care for. It had the Batwing fairing, it had lower fairings, it had speakers, and just all kinds of stuff that I'm like, I'm never going to use that. It's not what I want. It's not me. They also had a Pearl White Street Bob that kind of caught my attention. It was a 2006 with ridiculously low mileage. It had like 100 miles on it. And while the paint didn't really scream my name, I liked that it was different. It wasn't the same shiny black bike that everybody's got. And of course I discovered later that my wife thought it was the ugliest freaking thing that she'd ever seen. But that's neither here nor there. It's not really relevant because I didn't get it. And why didn't I get it? Well, I took it for a test ride. And immediately there were already some things that I wasn't crazy about on it. There was a lot of chrome and I didn't really want all the chrome. And it wasn't a bad bike. It handled okay, it accelerated alright, the ergonomics were good enough. It was just an okay bike. Like, if you could take two wheels and an engine and slap them onto the word meh, it was kind of that bike. And I'd kind of resigned myself to it, but it didn't speak to me. And that's something that I really wanted for something that I was going to be spending that kind of money on. And so I came back to the dealership and I talked to Jess about what I did and didn't like with the bikes that I'd looked at. And she said, honestly, man, I really think you should try the new Softail Street Bob. It's got everything that you say you're looking for and none of the crap that you say you're not looking for. And so yeah, I swung my leg over it and it fit me pretty damn well. I have to say that when I first climbed on, my legs like physically started cramping because I just wasn't used to mids. But everything else was just phenomenal. And obviously I've gotten comfortable with the mids now. I really like them and I've had it suggested to me, oh, you can totally swap those out for forwards. And honestly at this point, I wouldn't make the trade. But what really sold me on the bike was the power, that visceral, holy cow, this is quick feeling. Also, and I know this is a little crass and kind of petty, but I really dug the idea of owning a bike that no other man had ever pressed his nutsack into. I can't really explain it, and if it's not a thing that you've ever experienced, I don't think it's a thing that you can understand. But everything about this bike screamed at me when I looked at it, when I rode it. It said, this is the bike. This is your bike. And that brings us to category 3, personalization. And not necessarily what I can do to it, but what I don't have to do to it. Look at this thing. It's gorgeous, and everything that I thought I was going to need to do to that Dyna that I was going to end up buying is already done to it. Really, the first Harley Davidson motorcycle that ever spoke to me was Blockhead's Iron 883. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but there was something about that motorcycle that made me say, man, that is a cool bike. But there were things about it that I knew would make it unsuited for my style of riding, mainly that 883cc engine. Don't get me wrong, the 883 is a perfectly capable machine, but I do a lot of interstate travel, and that means I need to be able to ride around at 80 plus miles an hour and still have power to accelerate on top of that. And the 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 totally delivers that in spades. But as much as I love the power, it's not just the power, it's the styling. I love everything about it. I love the mini apes, I love the spokes, I love the bobbed fender, I love the mostly blacked out but not entirely blacked out look. I just love everything about this motorcycle. And my Dyna bros might hate on me a little bit for this, but honestly, I like the Softail platform better than the Dyna. I like the monoshock. I like that it doesn't have the external shocks because that means, for example, I can mount regular old saddlebags on the side of this without having to wonder, is it going to have that cutout for my shock? I don't need to worry about that. Also, just like any nerd, I researched the hell out of this bike before I actually pulled the trigger. And everything that I could find indicated to me that this was one of the better Harley Davidsons ever made. It's got on-demand power, it's got handling. This frame, believe it or not, handles better than the legendary FXR. That's right, I said it, shots fired, better than the FXR. It's just a gorgeous machine. It's a quick machine. It's a nimble machine. You get the big twin power, but it doesn't have a lot of the furniture on it that comes on some of the other Softails. And what that translates to is more acceleration. I love that it comes with the LED. I love that it has the gated forks. I love everything about this motorcycle. And while I'm sure at some point I could totally come up with a X number of things that I'm not crazy about my bike video, like every motovlogger has done, there is absolutely no way that I could with any degree of sincerity say that there is anything that I hate about this motorcycle. I love this bike. So there you go, the 3 categories of reasons why I bought a 2019 Harley Davidson Street Bob FXBB. The practical reasons, the visceral reasons, and the personalization reasons. God, I love that sound. Now, while I've really enjoyed having y'all along on this ride, it's beautiful right now, but it's about to start getting cold. And I've got friends at the house, so I'm headed home. You guys have been fantastic. Stay shiny side up out there. Peace.